everyone, welcome to yet another video empowered by managementbliss.com. Story points help team to size the ready to start piece of work with abstract numbers. Let us get started with the agenda. What are story points? Story points and estimation, story points and Fibonacci, story points and capacity planning. So what are story points? Story points are the efforts from development team's perspective to complete a particular piece of work. Story points measure the size of a product backlog item. We can also say that bigness of any PBI is measured using story points. The measure of PBI is defined by many factors like how big is the work to be done, the complexity of the work, and other factors affecting the solution. Therefore, sizing is influenced by complexity, physical size, and the risks involved. Story points are relative units of measure required to say that a work item is done. Story points are relative. A user story with 2 story points will be twice as big as a user story with 1 story point. Similarly, a user story with 3 story points will be 3 times as big as a user story with 1 story point. Therefore, it is the ratio that matters and not the numbers associated. While estimating, teams use previously completed story estimations and compare them with the new ones to derive the story's size. Let us take an example of a story that requires custom help messages to be entered in all text boxes of a screen. Now what if the work needs to be done for 100 screens? Though this task might seem to be simple, but because it has to be done on many screens, this will be a bigger user story for the sprint and will be estimated large in terms of story points. We will be moving on to story points and estimation. Agile teams, especially the Scrum teams, have been using story point estimation technique for quite some time. It has proven to be quite effective. Teams use story points to estimate the effort required to build a user story by assigning numbers to the associated story. During sprint planning meetings, teams generally estimate a user story by team pulls up story from product backlog, preferably the most valuable one. Team compares the story with other similar stories built in past and assign an estimated number to this new story. Team throws an open discussion if anyone has any doubts with respect to the sizing done for this user story. Finalize the story point agreeable to all. With that, we will be moving on to story points and Fibonacci. Estimation in hours or days may not work well for teams as it raises wrong expectations among team members and stakeholders, leading to a feeling of failure if the work is not completed at the same time. There is no hard and fast rule to what numbers should be assigned to the user stories. Generally, teams use the Fibonacci series to assign story points to user stories. Fibonacci is a sequence formed when each number is sum of 2 numbers preceding it, starting from 0 and 1. Teams use Fibonacci series because agile teams are trying to be accurate and want to avoid unnecessary precision while estimating. Fibonacci series provide an exponential approach to sizing than linear. For example, a user story of size 21 is much bigger than a user story of size 2. Let's move on to story point and capacity planning. A lot of agile teams are planning their capacity in story points. It makes sense to plan capacity in story points because these are the same unit teams are using to estimate their product backlog items. It becomes a lot easier for teams to plan capacity in story points because they are aware of their team's velocity and can prepare the team's capacity based on how many story points the team can deliver. Let us take an example of how to plan capacity using story points. Assuming that a team's average velocity is 50 story points for a 2-week sprint, then for normal sprints, during sprint planning meetings, the team will pull up the stories which sum up to a maximum of 50 story points or close. Let us take another example of an unusual sprint when a lot of holidays are planned, for example, towards the end of the year. In that case, it is logical to plan only for 25 story points. That's all for this video. Please subscribe to this channel and visit www.managementbliss.com for interesting agile articles. Thank you.